Tonight, we talk to entrepreneur turned politician Vivek Ramaswamy, who believes he has the right prescription for what ails this country. We're standing by to talk with the candidate about some of the most pressing issues on the campaign trail. But first, our conversation with him at his home in Ohio, where we get a sense of the person behind the politician in our series, Who Is? A special initially brought to us by ABC News legends Peter Jennings and Charlie Gibson.
Were you conscious as a child and as a young man that you came from a life of privilege?
So did you think to yourself, Barack, what kind of hubris is this? Being president.
They said, be a man.
Yeah, they said, be a man. They said, we're not accepting girls.
You're a Mormon kid. No drinking, no smoking.
Growing up as a child, what did you think you wanted to be? In just a few words, who is Vivek Ramaswamy?
I'm a first-generation American. I've lived the full arc of the American dream, and I am an entrepreneur who believes in building things to solve problems in the world.
An entrepreneur who's now trying his hand at politics.
Vivek Ramaswamy, next president of the United States.
Already making a name for himself on the big stage.
The climate change agenda is a hoax.
We should not create holidays with a cultural gun to our head.
We'll shut down the U.S. Department of Education.
I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner. And maybe those exist too.
I think it's fair to say that you've become a controversial political figure. And I was reading that you'd said that you'd taken some personal losses, family members, friends.
What I hope are short-term losses.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that that's accurate. But now that it is my job to express myself without fear as a citizen, as hopefully the next leader of this country, speaking the truth and sharing my beliefs without sugarcoating them for anybody.
My parents came to this country 40 years ago with no money.
Your parents were immigrants from India, dad an engineer, mom a geriatric psychiatrist. Yes. What was that upbringing like?
It was the best upbringing I could have possibly had. 2 parents in the house, intensive focus on education. In some ways, that's predictable. It's why my dad came to this country, was to pursue a better education than he was able to get in India. And my mom came to this country to finish her residency and become a doctor here. Growing up, we did go through our times of hardship. I did not grow up in money. My dad, when he was actually working at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio, that was exactly when Jack Welch was implementing large-scale layoffs across the company.
You say that you became a conservative in the 6th grade, and you say that you blame your dad and Jack Welch, the former CEO at that time of General Electric. You blame them for you becoming a conservative. How so?
Well, I think my definition of being a conservative, my crude definition, was this idea that hardship is not a choice. Hardship is something that happens to you, but victimhood is a choice. And that hardship is not the same thing as victimhood. So Jack Welch, through many chains down the GE corporate hierarchy, dealt hardship to my family and to my dad. But my dad's choice was not to be victimized by it, not just to complain and give up. It was to work hard, get ahead through his own dedication, maybe even be strengthened by that hardship.
Well, he says education was always his parents' priority. He also excelled outside the classroom. Vivek sang opera as a child. And in high school, he was a nationally ranked tennis player. In addition to tennis, you're also, I don't know if we could call you a concert pianist, but
that'd be an overstatement.
The valedictorian at his high school.
Tonight, let that journey begin.
Vivek went on to Harvard, majoring in biology before also attending Yale Law School, where he met the love of his life.
Meeting Apoorva, she was already the person she is today who pushes me to be the best version of myself.
At 29, he founded his first company, Roivant, even delaying his honeymoon in order to ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. His goal was for it to help pharmaceutical companies develop drugs for diseases like Alzheimer's, a disease he first encountered as a child.
I had a front row seat, for better or worse, to see it. Not just my grandmother's sister and other family members, but even my mother, who treated these patients on the front line. That was her career. It became an important part of our upbringing, too, to be able to play the piano in those nursing homes.
His company quickly skyrocketed in value, landing this boy in the bubble on Forbes' coveted 30 under 30 list. Obviously, you had banked on a medicine that you thought would work for Alzheimer's disease that didn't end up working. And I read an article that you talked about from a year ago where you said that some of those wounds haven't been healed still. Yeah. Is that ongoing? Is that something that kind of gnaws at you, that you're thinking that you're not ready to drop that ball yet?
Yeah, I mean, look, I felt like we were within striking distance of doing something for humanity that literally would have been world-changing, would have changed the course of human flourishing in human history. And like 99.7% of other drugs that have ever been tested for Alzheimer's disease, the one that I developed wasn't one of mine that succeeded either. And for me, in some ways, experientially, that was probably something that helped build me up, that helped build the company up. And so it's hard to regret something that contributes to what got you to where you are today.
How you doing?
If you were to become the president, you would be the first president in America's history who practices Hinduism. What role does faith play in your life?
Faith plays an important role in my life. I believe in God. I believe that God put each of us here for a reason. I think that that's something that's not unique to the Hindu tradition. Far from it. I think it's actually deeply embedded in the Judeo-Christian tradition and founding of this country as well. But I derive my freedom from my knowledge that it's not being done by me. I think it is being done through me, through us. We're God's instruments.
I'm curious what the road not taken is for you. Not something that you should have done, but something you could have done.
It's a good question. I really am a passionate tennis player. I'm a tennis fanatic. If the path was open to me to have pursued that career, especially because it's only going to be for so long, you can come back to doing all these other things later, I would have done it. I was good, but my native talent was never going to be at a level that would have allowed me to be the best in the world at it.
Your greatest strength?
Firmness of my convictions.
Biggest weakness?
Firmness of my convictions. I would say.
It's often the same. You're right.
Yes,
You're right.
Exactly.